So what we're here to talk about and I'm gonna just kind of let you explain what we're doing here, Scott. But you're doing a very special production
Hmm.
for Jimmy Wyble,
Hmm.
and you and I had a short conversation about how, and if I'm putting words in your mouth, I don't mean to, but how floored you are at at the love and the response that you're getting from all these people that are coming out of the woodwork to not only talk to you, but to just expound voluminously about Jimmy and how they feel about him. And and so I want you to talk about that, but I want to also put into context here that Beth is a huge, huge fan of Jimmy's. And I don't, did you actually study with Jimmy, Beth?
um, I tried, and I don't want to go off on a long tangent because I'm sure we'll get to this point anyway. But it is related to when I had the great fortune to be the chair of GIT for about 10 years. I was the department chair, and I had the opportunity to hire Jimmy to come back to teach
Right.
in 2007. And where this is all leading to is that all of us, and I mean everyone in the building, students, faculty, probably, the people that made the coffee in the morning, I don't know, everyone, we all sat at his feet when he would teach. We'd cram into a room and take this class that he called, I think it was the art of two-line improvisation, I believe. And I was one of them. I was the chair of the program, and I was right there in the front row, or actually the back row, because I didn't want anyone to see me struggling.
Well,
We all were there, all the teachers. So yes, I would say I studied with Jimmy. I had the great fortune, maybe for about a year, to spend, not enough time with him, but some time with him, and to work on the music and his concepts and be introduced. And I'm gonna just straight away, the disclaimer is I was terrible at it. In the
Well,
beginning. It was very, very hard. I'll just say it was very, very hard. I did my best, and I could see everyone else in the room when we were sitting also having a hard time. I think Jimmy was a little shocked that it was so hard for us, faculty and students alike. But there's a silver lining to this, because I know we're really here to have Scott talk a lot about what he's doing. But the silver lining is that I put the material away for 10 years because I just thought my fingers, they don't go this way. It's not possible. And I stuck it away. And then along came the pandemic. And I thought, you know what, let's dust it off, try it. And boy, am I glad. I'm not saying I'm glad COVID happened, but in the case of Jimmy Wyble, it was the thing that really, I finally knew I needed to get over it and try it. And the experience has been fantastic. It's just opened a door after a door after a door after a door for me in terms of imagination and technique, and a whole new world. And I feel incredibly, not only lucky, to have known Jimmy, but I feel very sort of continuously like he's part of my life, because I play this music every day. I play his etudes and several pieces every day, and I feel really connected to him. And my last bit, since I'm on this sort of long monologue, is that I think to this day, ask myself, what would Jimmy do if I find myself in a situation? And I know it's a cliche, but the truth is, you will have never met. I think my nickname, and it's not just me, my name for Jimmy is the gentleman genius of guitar. He was the kindest, most compassionate, biggest heart, warmest person, no competitive spirit at all. If you tried, like me, if you tried to play some of his music, he probably would give you a hug and maybe cry that you were even trying. He was incredibly kind and generous in a way I've never seen. We all know guitar players, so I don't want to,
yeah,
put
right.
any mythology out there about guitar players, but he was sort of the antithesis of that. He was just kind of a walking fountain of love, for lack of a better word. And there's a million anecdotes of people throughout his lifetime that could back that up, and I'm sure we'll get to them. So the long, long answer, Bob, yes, I did study with Jimmy. I tried my best.
Actually, I thought that
And
was
now
great.
I'm studying with him every day. Yes.
Well, that was a great answer, and it really put a lot of meat on the bones here. But before I get to Scott, I wanted to say something about that. There is a lovely YouTube video of Jimmy teaching one of those workshops, if you will, at
Yeah.
GIT, where you introduce him, and you don't look a year older actually, um, and it's lovely. I mean, that's the only word I can think of is it's lovely. And so we appreciate that. So Scott,
Can I just interrupt and say one thing? Because I'm getting all these, like right now, I'm kind of in the center of the Jimmy
well,
world.
before you do that, hold on one
Yeah.
second. Please hold on one second. I do have a method to my madness here.
Okay.
Our people, our subscribers, our listeners, our watchers, and all of that, they all know Beth. Beth is from GIT. She's a well-known artist in her own right. She's a great American soul, if you will. People know who she is. She'll go down as a treasure in someday when people start doing that kind of thing because she's been at the forefront of the carrying the flame for a long time, and so she's a great American jazz musician and educator. So, but I don't think people know who the hell you are. So
Correct.
why don't you give us a little idea who you are, and then why don't you go into the whole thing of what brought you to this and your experience of it, and I'll sit back.
Just 2 seconds before I do that, I just want to say that I've been getting so many responses from people who feel exactly the way Beth does. Like, I studied with Jimmy, but I was a horrible student. And some of these people are I won't mention who they are, but some very big names, and wonderful, wonderful musicians. So I think that effect of having this otherworldly talent and also otherworldly humility was the most potent combination and made Jimmy absolutely unique in so many areas. Okay, so who am I? Who the hell am I? Trying to figure that one out.
To quote me,
But
right?
what's that?
To quote me.
Yeah, to quote you, yeah. So, by the words, I'm a composer and a pianist. Um, I'm just kind of a creative person, and I've always been open to whatever project or inspiration kind of crosses my path. And so, like in my 20s, I started playing classical piano and then got interested in jazz as a teenager. Um, uh, Went to Oberlin, came out to California, did scores for theater and dance in my 20s. In my 30s, I got into songwriting and concert music more. I always wrote some of that. Music for plays, symphonic music, lots of concert piano works. And so I kind of have a broad experience with music, and I've always enjoyed. This is kind of a fairly recent revelation, but the projects are all over the map of what I've done. But the common thread is I love the people that I'm working with. And so I'll meet a man on a bus and then we'll write a play together. And that was one of my shows that was, ran in New York for a little while. I go to a little Thai restaurant and there's this little old man playing the guitar, and I'm just like floored. Like, this is beyond, and so that seemed, when Jimmy, literally within a couple minutes, when Jimmy kind of sussed me out, scoped me out, and he asked me, would you take some of my guitar music and arrange them for piano for more voices? I said, sure. I could tell this was a very unusual cat I was running into. And so that process continues with the kinds of things that I do. But I don't know if that answers your question. I'm not really answering with a resume. I'm kind of going a little deeper than that, I think.
Well, there is a website.
Yes, sure.
And the proper pronunciation of your name is Hilzik?
Correct. Very good.
Okay. So, you're a Grammy-nominated, recordings. Blah 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 blah. I mean, there's a lot of information about you and where you've been and who you've been with. And
sure.
So you're not Joey Bag of Donuts coming off of the bus and going, hey, I think I want to do this thing.
Right.
And
I think it's LA. In LA, it's bag of burritos, right? Scott's not donuts.
Probably, yeah.
Bag of burritos.
So, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
anyway,
Okay.
no, Scott is the real deal and a terrific player, and the resume is there, and the little bits I've heard of your playing, I'll just vouch for you straight away. You play very, very, very beautifully, and what a great opportunity to get two brilliant musicians together. I mean, this is such a special project, which Scott hasn't even had a chance to really reveal what it is. So
yeah.
why are you even here, Scott?
What are we doing, Scott?
So when Jimmy started, so after he asked me, would I do this? And it was one of those.
Let me back you up. How did you meet Jimmy?
So I had a piano student that had started, I think, studying briefly with Sid Jacobs.
Oh, okay.
And so the student said to me, he says, yeah, my guitar teacher says, there's this master playing at this place, you should check him out. And eventually I was in West LA, this was South Pasadena, I'm busy, and then eventually I had a free night and I went, and that's how I knew to go to Surya Thai. I don't know, is it still there, Beth? Surya?
Somehow I think it is, which is a miracle considering everything that's happened. But there's a little subtext too, Scott, and this story, I think, is that was Sid's gig, and he had to go maybe to Brazil or I don't know where, and asked Jimmy to sub. And Jimmy was apparently hesitant to play a gig because, as legend goes, it cut into his practice time. Like Jimmy was such an explorer, and that maybe he was really nervous about it because at that point, at the point he was teaching at GIT in 2007, he was 85 already.
Yes.
So this is around the same time, maybe a little tiny bit before. He was quite advanced in age, yet he was, as you said, Scott, still clearly a master. And I think he used to say something like, oh, Jimmy, if he'd have a clam, he'd make a little mistake. He was kind of hard on himself because he was a perfectionist. But what a stroke of luck that you got to go to the Thai restaurant. There he was, and probably very humbly sitting in the corner, just spooling out incredible counterpoint, and I'm sure that's what you heard. Yeah.
He'd also get up if there was somebody, like a woman came to the door, he might stop playing and open the door for her.
Yeah,
right?
Crazy.
Like and then go back to this music that, and I love it because I'm not a guitar player. I just listen to the music of it, but guitar player after guitar player after guitar player says this stuff is almost impossible to play well, let alone just to play. And he's 80, at that point he was 86, and he's just doing this stuff, and it really just completely mind blowing, to walk into this. And as a fan of Bach and counterpoint, to hear using modern harmonies and altered scales and creating these tapestries of sound that you didn't hear on a guitar. And to tell you the truth, I mean, Beth, you've heard probably a lot more guitar players than I have, but I still don't hear anyone that has what Jimmy had. I mean, I'm not saying there aren't geniuses and beautiful, beautiful musicians playing beautiful music, but he had something really unique. And I think what really got to me, and I think it's what Beth started our discussion with, is that through this very abstract musical language, his beautiful spirit came through. And that's kind of stuff that's hard to talk about, really. But that's really what got me hooked, and it's what we all feel. And to this day, we all feel. I mean, I'm getting these letters. When I spoke to Bob the first time, I had just gotten this beautiful letter from Steve Lukather that literally brought me to tears, and everyone touches upon that. I mean, simply his legacy is love, kindness, humility, and the kicker is he happens to be this just amazing guitar player.
It's really rare, like you're saying, this being that level of genius and yet matched by this level of humanity and kindness. I mean, we've all known wonderful people, but to have both those things is pretty rare. And also his history, which we don't need to go into a long lesson about it, but coming up through Bob Wills and Spade Cooley and Red Norvo and Benny Goodman and playing all kinds of very legit gigs and being the ultimate sideman, as he used to kind of describe himself. He was a team player. He always sublimated, I think, in a way, his ego. He was always a part of a bigger creation. And so he kind of carried this super solid base of being a straight ahead player in a way, or swing player. I don't mean straight ahead in the genre sense, but then when he it's probably known, but a number of years he stayed home. He took himself out of the scene to take care of his wife, who had a serious health problem. So he stayed home for a very long time to take care of his wife, Lily. And that's, I think, part of the genesis of where this otherworldly thing, Scott, you're talking about, the etudes and the two-line improvisation and this expansion of his guitar imagination really just began to grow and grow and grow. So it is so many chapters that are incredibly noteworthy, and it's worth a look if you're not really familiar, number one, with the modern stuff Jimmy did towards the last 30 years of his life, let's say, or even the older stuff. Not to plug because it's not about money, but on Facebook I set up a group called Jimmy Wyble Tribute. Probably about 3 years ago, and it's free. Obviously, it's a Facebook group, and you can join. And why I mention it is that I think it's in the spirit of Jimmy. Everything that we possibly could put our hands on, or I could, is free. There's a whole files section with dozens and dozens and dozens of charts and exercises and books and on, and a whole library of his material that he would be thrilled. I think I would venture to say he would be thrilled to know people just got that material and they could try it out. There's also a lot of video clips of Jimmy, through all these eras of his life playing, and a lot of really anything that kind of comes from his history. So it's a great resource. I encourage people to just go check out Jimmy Wyble Tribute on Facebook and join up. And what's been just a last thing about that, a beautiful thing is in the 3 years now, we've got well over 1,000 people, maybe 1,300 who've joined. And I would like to think Jimmy would be moved. I'm not saying he's a crybaby, but I think he would have been brought to tears.
Yeah.
That many people would care and have really, like Steve Lukather, or Howard Alden, or so many, Bruce Foreman, so many great players of today credit Jimmy as being really foundational and important to them. And so I think it's exciting that there's a revival of his body of work. And Scott, that you're taking it another step further with the project is kind of mind blowing. I'm just beyond excited that you're doing this, and it seems like a very thoughtful, very creative way. What an amazing pairing. I mean, what did you do? You recorded together? Yeah.
Let me jump in really quick here because I want to get back to people that might not know who Jimmy is or what he did or
Mm-hmm.
where he was, because
Sure.
I want to put that into some context on that. Uh, Jimmy played with Benny Goodman and Red Norvo, who was it's really funny. I was thinking about that. Vibes is not something that there's really very few current vibe. I mean, vibes is not something that we hear a lot about. I mean, there's some great vibe players out there, don't get me wrong, but it's not like it was. At one point in time, that was a major instrument, like an organ trio. You had vibe groups and stuff like that. But he played with Red Norvo, he played with Benny Goodman, and he played with Barney Kessel, and he also accompanied Frank Sinatra. And the thing that those four people have in common is they did not suffer fools or bad musicians at all. I mean, you had to know your, excuse my language, but shit, and you had to play and you had to be right on top of it. And there's famous stories about Sinatra letting people go during rehearsal saying, "We don't need you tonight, thank you." So and the albums that he played on, and the fact that he was a studio musician as well. I mean, he was a great musician, and you can watch him play at that gig, that specific gig that you're talking about, Scott. And I'm sitting there trying to describe his music because it to your point, it's a style that we don't hear a lot, right now. And I don't know that we ever did. I think he could be the unicorn. But the phrase that came to me, his music is like a flower garden.
Mm-hmm.
It's delicate, it's sensitive, it's absolutely beautiful, but it has its own strength
Mm-hmm.
in the power of its beauty, you know? And I listen to a lot of guitar players. I'm a guitar player myself. And I was thinking, what is it with this guy? Why am I continuing to sit here and being kind of
Can
mesmerized?
I can I can I share a really really simple, because I'm not plugged in and it's Zoom, but a simple
As long as it
concept.
comes through, sometimes the guitar won't come
Okay,
through.
a very simple concept that anyone watching the Zoom who's a guitar player can understand. Okay,
Right,
very
sure.
simple. If you just took a D major 7 chord, a very basic Jimmy idea would be to take just intervals from that chord that are very consonant and break them up. Uh, like that, playing them, just breaking them up, and suddenly you've got something much more from a really simple chord. I don't know if that came through or not, but he's very into just taking inner and outer voices, like, and making a lot out of very simple, like as an introduction, very simple shapes. He's finding that, that flower, like you said, in the simplest things, it becomes, wow, that's pretty cool, That's one part of one of his etudes, this little segment of it. And there's a million ideas that go way more complex. But just to sort of tip the scales, it's like something you may already know, but he's opened it up and
Right,
it goes 1,000 miles from there.
right.
It's a very, very, like it's in plain sight right here, but he went to it
But
for what it's worth. I don't know if that
it's
makes
like,
sense.
no, it does. It's like, it's like writing a song yesterday. Oh, I could have done that yesterday. Anyway, so Scott,
There's,
tell me.
there's a quote. There's a quote that Larry Koontz has that I think sums it up. Uh, there is no excess in Jimmy's music. Melodies trail off into silence. Harmonies are expressed with two well-chosen notes. Silence is just as important as sound, and it all comes off sounding like what Bartok might have written if he was born of Cajun parents and schooled with Texas swing.
I love
And
that.
I think Larry nails it.
So I
Yeah.
love that. So let's talk about the specifics of this project. Let's
Okay.
let's let's get to it. What
So,
do you do?
okay. So it, very simply, my goal was, in exchange for working on Jimmy's music, that I would get him to play some of my music.
Ah,
That was the original goal. And so the first phase of the project, we sent music back and forth to each other. And needless to say, we both really loved what we had heard. So then we went into the next phase where we were actually planning a recording session. And so what are we going to do? And obviously over time that the specific pieces might have changed, but the heart of the recording was the piano arrangements of Jimmy's music. With that said, there are maybe 6 tracks. I'd have to look at everything, but there are pieces that we play together of his. There are pieces that we play together of mine. There are free improvisations. There's one piece that we're calling Suspended Farewell, which goes on for many, many minutes. And at the end of it, I said to Jimmy, have you ever done anything like this? And he said, no. I don't know if that was him being polite or not, but I have no reason to disbelieve him, where that we're just, feeling each other and going into this key or that key. And so there's that kind of thing, as well as just like taking some tune and maybe, just taking the changes to a tune and improvising together. So it's a real wide range of material. And throughout the whole process, Jimmy was completely frustrated with how his fingers weren't doing what he wanted them to do. Now, from his words, it sounded like you could have gone back 50 years earlier and he would still not be happy with what he was playing. So it was kind of hard to tell. But I did see, that there were some things, his fingers weren't doing that he wanted to do. But, his playing was magnificent. And the truth is, his expectations for himself were off the charts. There's a piece called Cape Cod, a short piece. He and Lily used to love to go to Cape Cod together. So I think it was the summer of 2008, I was in Cape Cod, and I saw a place that said, a store that said Lily's Gift Shop. And so I'm like, oh my God, I have to write a piece. So that was one of the pieces I wrote. And I bring it in to him at the session, and he's trying to read it. And he says to me, he goes, this is really hard. And I said, and then I realized he was trying to play the whole piano part. He wasn't just playing the lead line. He was trying to play the whole thing. And I said, Jimmy, no, just the top line. And then it was like, it wasn't hard at all.
Oh, God.
So like his expectations for himself were extremely high. His playing was absolutely beautiful, as everyone will hear. And he brought in a couple new things, basically, I think, just to give something for guitar players to discover and explore. I do want to say that well, he said very clearly that he sought me out to do this project as a piano player because he wanted the music to be received by audiences beyond just the guitar community.
Right. So I have a question for you. How can people experience your project?
Very soon it will be available. We're still, it still needs to be mastered. We've been at the mercy of our engineer's schedule, who's been on the road for quite a bit. So it needs to be mastered, and we're trying right now to figure out whether to use, basically to get a label deal or to go another route.
Do you have a working title for it?
Conversations with Jimmy.
Conversations with Jimmy.
I mean, this is so exceptional. This is the last recording of Jimmy Wyble.
Right.
And, that's such a talk about unicorns.
A big deal. Yeah, it's a big deal.
It's a big deal and so rare. And I just have a question, Scott, for you. Was there any evidence of Jimmy having his tremor in his hands when he recorded? Was he pretty steady at that time? Because
I would say there was a slight tremor, very slight, and there were I don't recall at this point which tracks we were working on where we would do multiple takes of something, but it was not debilitating. It was not.
That's good to hear. I mean, I figured it wasn't. And again, he would be, he would surmount any obstacle no matter what, because his work ethic was so strong. And, going back to the mention of him trying to read the whole piano part, I mean, he was such an exceptional reader, his time with Tony Rizzi and beyond. I mean, oh yeah, of course, he wouldn't bat an eye. So, that's a really fantastic anecdote. And do you think he was proud of it? I mean, he probably heard.
Yeah,
he felt great about it, right? I hope.
Well, so yes, we have him on video, we have him on audio saying how happy he was with this. And he, in December of 2009, the recording engineer and a friend, we went over to Jimmy's, and he was, in ailing health at that point, and we recorded an hour conversation of just us talking, and we played him the music, and he was very happy with it, very, very happy. And that's another thing that is exceptional about this project, that there was a videographer who filmed about 10 hours of Jimmy and I in the studio. Maybe it's about 9 hours or something.
Amazing.
So there is a wealth, a treasure trove of material of Jimmy talking about how when, he saw Wes Montgomery, he had shaved his beard, and Lily didn't like him without his beard. So, him talking about how Wes Montgomery sees Jimmy, and the first thing he says from a distance is, "Jimmy, grow the beard back." Like stories and just wisdom, really, as well as lots of music. So it's incredibly well documented. We're looking into how to have an ongoing site, not just with educational materials and music, but little snippets posted regularly of Jimmy or Jimmy and I in the studio working on things, or him talking about things. So the name of the project is Conversations with Jimmy. Our preliminary website is conversationswithjimmy.com. There is a 3-minute trailer video that introduces the project. We are almost finished with a 13-minute video that goes into much greater depth about things. And that will, the plan is to have that be posted concurrently when the music is released. And then in an ideal world, there would be funding to do, a full-length documentary on Jimmy.
Do you have an idea when you think this is going to happen?
All I can say right now is hopefully very soon.
Well, very, very soon. And when you start talking about millennia, it can be time. In our lifetime would be a good start.
Well, Scott, you're trying to raise funds, right? You've got.
Wait, are you talking about the documentary or the album?
The project, the recording project that we've been discussing is recorded.
Oh no! That would be that's sooner than the documentary.
Right, but we will. What I would like to do at this juncture is kind of put a pause on this.
Okay.
And say we'll let people know this is coming, because I think it's very exciting. I'm with Beth. I think this is very exciting. It's really important stuff. It's it's like raising the Titanic. I mean, it's a big deal.
Yes.
So Beth liked that.
Yeah.
So it is a big deal, and so what I'd like to do is we'll get this video out, and you can keep us posted when all that's and so when everything is happening. This is going to let people know when it happens. We'll get back together again.
Perfect.
With the project, and we'll talk about that summit, and then we can, we want to assist in any way we can to see that this project, gets done.
And that really is why we're taking our time and trying to meet the right folks, because this is not like just a jazz guitar release.
Oh no! There's
so somebody that or an organization that really understands and truly, it's these values that go beyond the great musicianship that you started this wonderful talk with. Those values are his legacy.
Oh, absolutely.
And so
go ahead, Beth.
So I hate to interrupt, but his legacy, and I feel remiss if I don't include a couple of names of people who really embody Jimmy's playing to the highest level, and they've been in passing, but I think an acknowledgement is required for both Sid Jacobs and Larry Kuntz, because they really were like the closest to really expressing, and they were very close to Jimmy, of course, but expressing, on the guitar, his language and his body of work. And my secret wish in mentioning this, Scott, is not only, of course, to make sure that credit is given, because I mentioned some other guitar players earlier. These two guys are really important in the pantheon of Jimmy's legacy. But also, my hope is maybe there'll be a concert.
Yes.
There'll be like a release concert, and maybe either one or both or others could sort of sit in the Jimmy chair and you guys could perform it. It would be extraordinary. Or maybe we just have a big guitar fest and call it a day and have it be Jimmy Fest. But I mean, there's all these great opportunities to really make it alive and celebrate it. So I'm just putting in my vote early.
I think the concert
and often
the concert I think is
and
fabulous.
that the audience would have many young musicians that will walk in there saying, who's Jimmy Wyble? And that a whole new generation of
if we only knew somebody with a school that would maybe expose,
I'll tell you, I don't know anybody that has a school, but that's one of the things that it just gave me endless happiness to see 20-year-old students sitting there at the feet of the master in those classes with their jaws hanging open. And Jimmy, by the way, in his very first class, it's worth sharing this anecdote. He showed up, he was so excited to teach again after a long hiatus that he asked me, he says, well, I'd like you to pass around a piece of paper, if you don't mind, Beth. Would you pass this around the room and get everyone's phone numbers? Because I'd like to have 100 students, like their phone numbers, so I can invite them all to my house. to play. It's like, okay, school never, that's just something you don't do. But I think that the relationship to younger people and, that bridge was really important to Jimmy. He loved teach. I never saw anybody love teaching more. And I love teaching. Jimmy loved it. And it just was a delight all the way around. So yeah, I'm with you as far as the school notion. And, Sid Jacobs picked up the mantle after Jimmy didn't feel well enough to continue his class after about a year. Then Sid took over teaching it, and beautifully too. So it's really, we're really fortunate that between Sid and Larry, these two guys are in LA and they carry the flames. So I'm sure with your creative talent, Scott, you'll find a way to keep them in the mix too, because they are so great.
Absolutely. I mean, Larry was kind and so excited to do the interview where the little snippet is on that trailer, and we talked for quite a while, and his love and his enthusiasm and appreciation and respect for Jimmy, as well as his just amazing talent, Larry's talent, is evident, and it's just, yeah, this project is definitely the benefit of Larry and Sid and the other other people in the Los Angeles community. When I was working with Jimmy, I would go to his house and there'd be Sid or Larry or many other names, Brandon Bernstein, I think, and just so many people. All people were always coming and going, and there'd be jam sessions, and just that love of being around younger musicians was evident.
Well, I am absolutely 100% certain that those kids appreciated what was going on in front of them, because I'm sure of it.
What's great is seeing now all around the world, of course, places like Brazil, where Jimmy visited, but other parts of the world. I mean, because of this Facebook group that's been ongoing, people posting videos in that group, or even just their own social media and YouTube, and you see people all over the world just getting turned on to this music and falling in love with it, and it's the best thing. Yeah, it's really great. So that's it.
100%.
And with that, we want to thank Scott Hilzik and Beth Marlis for coming in today and talking about the great Jimmy Wyble and the new project, which is Conversations with Jimmy, that we're all looking forward to. I'm going to go back and do even more listening, whatever I can dig up, because I was very inspired by what I heard, and I wasn't all that familiar with Jimmy's music. I'm just being honest, and but I certainly respect Sid. I've got his books, so but been there, done that. So, ladies and gentlemen out there in TV land, if you like this kind of programming, please subscribe. Please tell your neighbors, tell your friends, like, share, follow, do all those things. It really does help us. We really appreciate you. So, with Beth Marlis and Scott Hilzik, I'm Bob Bakert for Jazz Guitar Today, Conversations with Jimmy. Stay tuned, because
for part 2.
There's a part 2, so stay tuned.
There's a big part 2.
All right.
And hopefully a part 3.
Thank you very well. Hopefully there'll be a part 25, but we'll talk about that later. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Scott.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.